And, well, my guest tonight virtually needs no introduction after his performance on that opening track. Anyway, not only is he a bona fide rock guitar god from one of the most successful bands this country has ever produced, but he's also managed to squeeze in time to be a doctor of astrophysics, a CBE, a badger saver, author and stereo photography expert, among loads of other things I probably haven't even mentioned. Welcome to My Planet Rock's Brian May.
Thank you very much.
It's wonderful.
Nice to be here.
Wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you.
I think we could probably do about a week.
All right, we'll just settle in.
Yeah. Hope you brought some food. But we've only got an hour, so we're going to talk about all sorts. But before any of that, you have this incredible... I don't even want to call it a book, because I feel like I'm doing it a disservice if I just say you've written this book.
It's a toy, yeah.
I don't even know how to say it properly.
Diableries.
Diableries, okay.
Yes, well, that's a very English way of saying it. You know, my partner, Denis Pellerin, would call it Diablerie.
Okay.
Without the S, because the S is silent in French, of course. But Diableries is kind of devilments, and that's what it's about. It's about... Well, you want me to tell you what it's about?
Yeah, absolutely. More interesting if you say than I do.
It's easier when you have it in your hand, actually, isn't it? You know, rather than talking about it.
Yeah.
But it's a 3D book, and what it does is channel images from the 1860s in France, which sounds very obscure, doesn't it? But actually it's very relevant to today, because these images are all of devils and skeletons and Satan himself, of course, all having a great time in hell. And these things were depicted for fun and for a little bit of a sort of religious overtone, but also, more than anything, satirically and seditiously, because they were all about overthrowing the government of their day. So it's very relevant to today. That's what I do. You know, I work on overthrowing governments.
And why not?
When I can, you know, in odd moments. But these images have fascinated me for 40 years. They're extraordinary. They were made by sculptors and photographed in 3D. And of course, 3D in the 1860s was well advanced, and anything that can be done in 3D was done by the 1860s. The book comes with a stereoscope, my patent owl stereoscope. So you get incredible 3D imaging, very immersive, even more than going to the cinema and seeing Avatar, I think, really. And we have every Diablerie image in there except 2, which we couldn't find. So there's 180, and there should be 182. But you can enjoy the experience. You can read it as a book, because there's lots of research in there about what these things actually mean, because the devil is portraying Napoleon III, in fact. And all these little things that they get up to. I mean, they get up to extraordinary things in hell. They do ice skating and firefighting and stuff. I'm ashamed to say, when I was going through the book, I genuinely don't think I knew anything about it. I was literally like, what the heck is this? Like, I don't think it's ever... In fact, what the hell is this?
Yeah, exactly, literally. But it's totally fascinating. I mean, how did it first appear to you? Like, how did you get interested in it?
It was years ago. I was a student, and I used to go down Portobello Road and search for anything 3D, because it's always been a fascination of mine, and I could pick up old viewers and things. And then suddenly, in a pile of stereo cars, was this one skeleton view. And I was fascinated from the beginning. I thought, what on earth is this? What is it saying? What was it made for? And then I realized it was a tissue. So you hold it up to the light, and instead of it being black and white, it turns into glorious color, and the eyes glow at you in a very mysterious way. So, because the technology from the 1860s was incredible, actually. They painted these things on the back and pricked out all the eyes and all the jewelry and things that would glitter. And so when you hold it up to the light, it transforms from day into night.
Wow.
And I tell you what, all this technology we have in the 21st century, I have tried to duplicate this, and you just can't. It's incredible that the work they put in. So I started collecting these things, as I say, 40 years ago, and now I have almost all of them, but not quite all of them. But I know people who have other ones, you know, so I've been able to scan everything. And of course, you use modern technology, digital scanning and restoring in Photoshop, and you can restore these things to their former beauty. So you will see in this book the Diableries as they were meant to be seen, in complete 3D and in colour. And people just go, wow, it's great, you know. And I knew they would. I knew once we actually channeled this into the 21st century, people would get excited, and they do seem to be.
And it's almost like it's a little bit like I suppose it is an underground secret, isn't it? A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, 140 years, very, very little has been known about it. And there's never been a book like this which gathered them all together. The secret is seeing them in 3D, in their stereoscopic splendour, and that's why I had to design my own viewer to go with the book.
I mean, it looks beautiful, and when I sort of got it out of its slipcase and I was looking through it, I kind of felt like it's not just a book, it's an experience. It's so fascinating, especially when, like I said, I really wasn't aware of it at all. So it was genuinely, I was sat in the office and people were like, you do some work today. So no, hang on a minute. Brian, I want you to pick a track. I'm not going to make it very difficult at all. I'm not going to, this time I won't ask you to pick one of yours. I'm just going to ask you to pick a really good guitar track by someone you think is, worth it.
Okay, what has popped into my head is Since You've Been Gone, because I think it's a quintessential, I suppose you'd call it pop rock in a sense, but it's uncompromising. It's a great song and it's brilliantly played. I mean, the drums, my dear friend Cozy Powell, of course, long gone, and I worked with him, and it was a wonderful experience working with that guy. I mean, incredible. He had rock all the way through him, an amazing guy. And of course, Ritchie Blackmore playing guitar, who's extraordinary. People don't talk about Ritchie Blackmore enough. I don't know why, but he was such a trailblazer and technically incredible, unpredictable in every possible way, which is great. I mean, that's what you love, isn't it? You go to a gig and you want to see something which is not predictable, which is not like just, reproducing something. So you never knew what you're going to see when you went to see Purple when Blackmore was in it, but also Rainbow when, this was his own thing. And it was wild and dangerous. And this is a good pop record, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's great rock music, in my opinion. I think it's
Brian May.
Dr. Brian May.
Dr. Brian May.
I don't let anybody call me Mr. these days.
Yeah.
If you go through that torture, you never want to be called Mr.
Do you know what? Let's do it again. Dr. Brian May.
Thank you very much.
Look, I did mention, of course, before that the thing that we hold you all so dear to our hearts for is Queen. And very recently, in Montreux, you opened the Queen studio experience. Now, I didn't actually know anything about this until I read about the opening, but tell us about it, because it just sounds incredible.
It's nice, yeah. It's something I never would have thought would happen. You go through these things. We used to turn up every day in Montreux. We loved it there. It was a very good escape from sort of the pressures of our home lives in London, and we would be there working away, going in the same door every day. And then I went back there last week to open this studio experience, and suddenly it's sort of been converted into a museum in a sense. It's like being at your own funeral. I'm trying to make it sound positive, aren't I? But it's actually a great thing. We worked there for many years, and we actually made more or less 6 albums there in this little studio in the corner of a casino on the banks of Lake Geneva in a sleepy little town called Montreux. And Montreux is very quiet normally. A little bit of tourism goes on, but when the jazz festival comes on, it's massively crowded and nice, actually. It's a nice event to do. In fact, Kerry and I just played it last July. And we have a DVD coming out of that performance, which is nice. But I digress. We went there and we stayed there. David Richards became our sort of regular engineer and producer and did a fantastic job. So you find a formula, well, not a formula, but you find a situation which works for you and you carry on with it. Freddie loved it because it enabled him to get away from the press intrusion, particularly towards the end of his life. Because people were sticking cameras through his toilet windows when he was sick, which is really awful. So in Montreux, he really did get peace and privacy, and he bought a place there. And there we would work very, I'm going to say gently, but it wasn't gentle. I suppose it was quite turbulent. But there have been a trickle of people who go there like a pilgrimage. I don't know if you know the Freddie statue.
Yeah,
is actually there as well, nearby on the shores of the lake, which is beautiful. So people go there to see Queen, in a sense. They to see the statue and to have a look around the studio and see what it was like. So in response to that demand, the casino and the town and some of our people put together this experience, which is basically there's loads of our stuff there, instruments, and you can see where we worked. And in the control room, which has been restored to what it looked like when we were there, apart from it being filled with smoke. which was not easy. The desk has been restored, and you can sit there and you can mix a track. So there's a few Queen tracks there, and you can sit there and work the faders and do your own mix. Which
That's really interesting.
It's a nice thing, so people, I've seen them have a lot of fun with it. And
because that's part of the magic of, I think, of, just as a music fan, what happens in the studio when people's individual parts become, that thing that you love. That must be amazing for people to actually have a go. What tracks are they? Do you know?
One of them is Made in Heaven, which is very much a very sort of quintessential Queen track. It's one of the biggest we ever did. It was never a single, strange enough, but it's one of my favourite tracks.
Was it not?
Ever. No, which perhaps it should be.
Yeah.
Made in Heaven is so enormous, we could play it if you like.
Yeah, let's have a listen. My guest this week is Dr. Brian May. See, I got it right this time.
Thank you, darling.
I just wanted to talk to you really briefly, because I can't have you sitting here and not talk about the guitar. I actually genuinely do not know how you ended up playing the guitar. And I genuinely don't know the story of how you ended up playing the guitar and not the drums or the piano.
Oh, I see.
What led you to six strings?
Well, Buddy Holly, really. I think that was the moment. I thought, that's what I want to do. When I heard that incredible jangling noise, I mean, we can play a bit of that if you like, Buddy Holly and the Crickets, I used to listen to on my little crystal set under the covers when I was pretending to be asleep, and it was magic to me, because in the world that I grew up in, it was the world of soft classical music and the big band era and Johnny Ray, ballads, Bing Crosby. And this guy coming along with this jangling sound and this amazingly kind of spooky sound of the backing harmonies as well. I was just blown away, and I still am every time I hear it.
From hearing that and thinking, right, that's what I want to do, and actually putting that into practice, obviously lots of people dream of doing something, but very few actually get to the end game. Once you actually got hold of a guitar, how quickly did you realise, actually, I can do it, I can do this?
I suppose it was gradual, really. I mean, I was lucky because my dad was musical and he taught me ukulele chords. So when I asked for a guitar for my, probably 9th or 10th birthday, I got the guitar and I was able to make some kind of noise with it that made sense. But for years, I just played rhythm, really, and I would sing and play rhythm. So that's my grounding. And I'm happy that happened, because these days people delve into, playing Ernie, very quickly. People get into playing single notes, but the rhythm stuff is very important. That's your grounding, really. But yeah, I could do something, and I had kids around me of my age who felt the same and were passionate about it. So we would go and hide in the cycle sheds and play riffs to each other and swap ideas and techniques and stuff. So it happened very quickly. By the age of, 16 or so, I could play a lot of what I can play now. You develop those skills quite quickly. But, the inspiration was all around us. Rock and roll was just burgeoning everywhere. It's incredible. And I was listening to people like James Burton on Hello, Mary Lou, Ricky Nelson records. I didn't know his name, didn't know who he was. I just heard this guitar, not just doing the jangling thing and not just making a big noise, but speaking. He could bend notes, James Burton, and I was just entranced, because that transformed the guitar from a rhythm instrument into a lead instrument on a parallel with a lead vocalist. So that really just made the hairs on my back stand up, and that's what I wanted to do.
Do you want to play a Buddy Holly track then?
Probably Maybe Baby.
Okay, let's have Maybe Baby.
I remember them so clearly, these records, because it was vinyl in those days, and this was black vinyl, done very cheap with a black label in the middle with very little on it except the title and the artist, and they were in a brown paper bag with a hole in. It was very kind of cheapo, but God, the magic was in there, and I can still smell what it was like. They have a perfume, these vinyl singles. And, you put it on your record player and my God, the magic just leapt out at you.
Well, let's listen to Buddy Holly and Maybe Baby. Brian, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your work with Kerry Ellis, because we've talked to you and Kerry before. But the two of you first met on We Will Rock You, didn't you?
Well, she was the original meet, yeah. Right. She came in to audition when we were putting the show together for the first time, very tentatively, because we didn't really know what we were doing, We were learning very fast. But Kerry came in and sang No One But You and just slaughtered us all. It was amazing. So she got the part. I had actually seen her. I kind of poached her in a sense, because I'd seen her in My Fair Lady of all things, something very different. But she was astounding in that as an understudy. And so I think it was me who actually asked her to come in and audition for the part, which is incredible, and created that role. And I immediately thought, this is the kind of voice I would like to work with, because, I don't have Freddie anymore. And she's just a very inspiring interpreter of material. So gradually, over years and years, because we're both incredibly busy, we found time to just put some tracks together, produce some tracks for her, and we made that first album, the Anthems album. And then we figured we could go out on tour. So in various forms, we've been on tour, and it's great for me. It's very different. There's not the expectation of being Queen, which is kind of a release for me. I love being Queen, but, not all the time. Sometimes it's nice to get out and just be fresh and different. So we did the last thing we did was our Acoustic by Candlelight tour, which is great because it's very intimate. We can tell stories and have a joke with the audience, and it's turned out to be something very good. So we'll do some more of that. I think we start around the end of February this year. Doing some gigs in England. We have some gigs in Russia and in Malta, and I think maybe South Africa, I'm not sure. So I enjoy that. It's great, and it's stimulating for me. It's a way of just having a very fresh look at things. We play a couple of Queen songs, and I do actually play some electric guitar, even though it's called Acoustic by Candlelight. But it's very intimate. It's very different from the huge, grand Queen experience, which we may be doing again. I think we may do some Queen gigs later on this year. I'm probably not supposed to say this, but but we're looking at doing something, And, of course, Adam Lambert is a great frontman, and we know already that works. So we would be looking towards doing some gigs with Adam, hopefully. So I'm excited about that, if it happens.
Do you know what? I'm going to make you hold that thought really quickly. I'm going to ask you that a little bit more about that. If you just pick me a track of you and Kerry's, and then I'll ask you the big Queen question. Yeah,
okay. The track I would pick is called Anthem, and it's from the Chess musical. And this is something which I grabbed hold of because I thought this is really a rock track. And this is what she'll make it with Kerry, and she's got this enormous voice, and so we did our own adaptation. I'm very proud of this as an arrangement. It's very rock, it's got loads of loud guitars on it, which is kind of what I do, I suppose. It's also got a nice, very big orchestral arrangement, which I did with Steve Sidwell, which I'm also very proud of. And then on top of it sits Kerry with this extraordinary, passionate delivery. Yeah, so this is something, we actually performed this at the Festival of Remembrance a couple of years ago, and it was a great moment, really. This is the kind of thing which I strive for. I love to make events happen, and something special happen. So, this is Anthem.
And just as we were talking then, you sort of casually mentioned that there might be a little Queen action later on this year. Wow.
Well, we have a busy year coming up because we are doing this Freddie musical, and that's now... the engine has started rolling.
And is that the biopic, or is that the...
Yeah, it's the biopic, and it's about Freddie, and of course it has to be about us as well. And I think it's going to be a really interesting film. We've been through various alleyways, we've been through all kinds of thoughts as to what the film actually should be, and I think it's now very clear to us. We have a great director, and we think we have a great guy playing Freddie. But we feel that we understand what our brief is now, because it's a film about Queen as a family, in a sense, because a group like us forms organically, in a sense. We weren't put together from the outside. We just evolved very luckily, into a unit which democratically worked and organically was creative. And the sum of its parts were greater than the parts, if you know what I mean. But also, it's very much a family because we were together longer than any of our, relationships outside our marriages and stuff, and so the film really is a kind of exploration of the dynamics of that kind of family and what happens, how it comes together, and what happens when it gets disrupted and out of balance, and how it can regain its integrity. So it's a fascinating project, really, and I think the script is reflecting those thoughts. And of course, it's about Freddie. It's about how he functioned in this environment.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's lots of people know that Freddie, the onstage Freddie, or feel they know him because that was the only bit they saw.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, obviously, you knew him so well, there must have been a million other facets of him.
Yeah, the Freddie we knew was pretty shy, really. But he had an extraordinary way of using his talents, and also very good at bringing out other people's talents, and by that I include me and Roger and John. He had a very generous nature, I think, and also a very far-seeing nature, very focused, because he realised that if he got the best out of everyone around him, then it would benefit everyone. So, he's a very unusual person, Freddie.
And I guess finding someone to represent that is equally difficult. I'm not going to make you tell me who it is, but...
Yeah, well, the rumours are out there, I know.
Everyone can Google it. What about someone playing you? Have you ever had anyone play you before?
No, not really. That's an interesting thought. We have someone, I think, on the cards. I probably can't reveal this either, but, I'm excited about the guy who's, at the moment, the front runner for playing me. Yeah, it's going to be weird. I mean, that is very weird. And to be honest, that's one of the things which has stopped us doing this before, I think. I don't know if we were ready for this. I remember coming up with the same thing in the musical. The musical originally, We Will Rock You, was going to be a bio musical. It was going to be about the history of Queen and stuff, and the history of Freddie. And we actually workshopped it that way, and then we just hated it. We just didn't feel it felt comfortable to portray us on stage that way. So that's why We Will Rock You became about the future and kids in the future. And thank God for Ben Elton, who had the vision to make it happen that way. Because We Will Rock You is much, much more interesting than a sort of biographic musical, I think. And it's a good story, it's funny, it's satirical, but it has a warmth to it. So I think when people come out from We Will Rock You, they feel like they've kind of seen us and they know us in a strange way. And they feel like they've been on some kind of journey and they want to do it again. That's why We Will Rock You's still there after 11 years.
Is there a track that appears in the show that we can play now? Seeing as we just talked about Freddie, we talked about We Will Rock You. What track should we play that appears in the in the musical?
Well, I Want It All is interesting, because I Want It All is a sort of cornerstone of the play, of the story of the musical, because it's about kids wanting it all, and the song was about reaching out and grasping what you want in life. And really that's kind of the theme of We Will Rock You. So it's funny how the songs that we had, I Want to Break Free is another example, the songs actually dovetailed into a story like this very easily, because a lot of Queen's music was about normal people, like you and me are normal people, with normal dreams and normal frustrations, trying to grab the kernel of life. So I Want It All sums that up quite well. You got it right.
I don't want to say it now without the doctor at the beginning. So we were talking before about more like live Queen shows this year. How difficult is it to crank that machine back into action? Because I assume it's quite a machine.
It's slightly frightening because it's big, as soon as the word Queen is over the top, then things change in scale. And we do have some great people we can call up, but from the moment you press that button, you feel this sort of energy starting up again. You feel the engine start to turn, and it's exciting. I mean, I can feel excitement in me at the thought that we may be going out, and it's energizing. It also brings other stuff, being Queen, sort of stepping back into that sort of battleground, internal battleground, is not that easy for me, because I'm used to getting my own way, I suppose. And Roger and I always see things completely differently. We're like brothers, there's a certain amount of love there, but there's a certain amount of hatred as well. Not hatred, but, we pull in opposite directions the whole time, which is partly the strength of Queen, I suppose. But to step back into that arena can be quite hard. I know for him as well as me. We don't have John anymore, because he's opted out. He's quite reclusive, really, and we respect that. We don't have Freddie. So, here we are. And I think there's always a big question mark. A lot of people think, we shouldn't be trying to be Queen, whatever. But, it's in us. That's what we spent half our lives building. And the demand is there. People want to see Queen in some form, and we can give it. Someone like Adam Lambert comes along, or formerly Paul Rodgers, which was a great success. But Adam Lambert is, I suppose, a little bit more like Freddie in some ways. He has that extraordinary sort of theatricality to him, which Freddie had as well. He doesn't copy Freddie in any sense whatsoever, which is great. I would hate to do it with a copyist. But Adam has an amazing range. He's one of the few singers in the world, male singers, who can handle all those vocals at their original pitch. And he's an entertainer. And he's nice to be around. This is so important. You've got to work with people that you like and feel comfortable with. And he definitely qualifies for that. So, if it happens this year, it will be with Adam. And, Yeah, I can feel the warm draft beneath my feet. Yeah.
I like that's a good way to put it. I was just thinking that it's kind of a shame this isn't TV, because just the look on your face then and something changed.
Yeah,
but
it is kind of scary, but most of the best things in life are scary, aren't they?
Yeah, it makes you feel alive, definitely. Definitely. Well, I think we will all, and I probably speak for everyone here at Planet Rock as well, to say that we'll be there on the front row, most definitely.
Brilliant.
Most definitely.
Right. Well, thank you to Planet Rock, because you do us good and we appreciate it.
Well,
Wonderful.
there wouldn't be much Planet Rock, to be honest, if it hadn't been for Queen. So thank you. I think I say that from our listeners as well.
Oh, that's great.
But I just want to play out with one track before we go. And I think the last time you were really on the airwaves on Planet Rock was with our good friend, well, no, not my good friend, your good friend, Tony Iommi. Good friend of the station.
Tony Iommi, yeah.
Yeah.
Tony's great. And he's one of my very few real friends in the business, and he's a great, great, great friend. He's just, I think, one of the people who, well, obviously, he's kind of the father of heavy metal, really. This man came up with a million riffs, which are the cornerstone of heavy metal music. But he's totally modest, he'd laugh he does laugh when I say that, And in fact, he has so many riffs that didn't get used. We've talked about a project of putting those riffs all together.
That rings a bell.
Yeah, it's something, we haven't had time to do it yet, but when we do get a moment, that's what we're going to do, is sit down. In fact, we've done some preparation, and so, there's a lot of these tracks we're going to listen to. And he just had so many riffs that not all of them got converted into Black Sabbath songs or even solo songs, So we thought how interesting it would be to have this stuff out there, and maybe other people can use them, like...
So the lost riffs of rock.
They will love it. Yeah, really. Tony Iommi's riffs. How does he do it?
Well, shall we bring it... Well, I'm going to bring it back to the beginning, and I'm just going to remind everyone that your book, Diableries, I'm going to say it in a northern accent, so that's the only way I know. Brian's book, Diableries, is out now. And
Stereoscopic Adventures in Hell.
And I think a good sort of soundtrack for that would be a Black Sabbath track.
I think
what
it
do
would.
you think?
Yeah.
So what should we play out with?
I wouldn't mind Paranoid myself, actually. It just always does it, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, let's have a bit
of
of
okay?
Paranoid.
Are we allowed?
I think we are 100% allowed, and I'm sure Tony will be pleased. Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you on My Planet Rocks.
Thank you. Brilliant. Nice to be here.